Stop before you make another promise. Put your words on trial. What happens when you announce one future, then use your next action to rehearse another? What happens when you say, tomorrow I begin, but tomorrow is immediately handed back to delay? When you speak of discipline, then protect the habit that defeats it. When you vow to finish the work, change at last. Become someone more deliberate, and the very next movement carries you in the opposite direction. Your words lose authority. Not because the ambition is false, not because speaking a commitment is foolish. A clear declaration can summon attention, define duty, and give direction to effort. But when speech points one way and conduct walks another, the contradiction begins teaching you a dangerous lesson, that what you say need not govern what you do. A promise starts educating you the instant your next action answers it. Recall one recent declaration, not your grandest dream, not the polished statement you would offer another person. Choose one real promise, near enough to examine without disguise. What did you say you would begin, stop, complete, or change? Now place beside it the action that immediately followed. Did that action serve the promise? Did it postpone the promise? Did it merely preserve the feeling of intention while leaving the duty untouched? Be exact. This is not a ceremony of shame. It is an audit of authority. The enemy is not aspiration. The enemy is separation. Word without deed, decision without appointment, identity without evidence. You may feel sincere when you speak. You may feel relieved. You may even feel transformed for an hour. But emotional force is not behavioral confirmation. The future you announce is judged by the present you enact. Keep that one promise with you throughout this address. Do not exchange it for a safer example. Do not admire the principle while concealing the case. We will test that declaration by what it appointed next. We will establish one governing rule for confirming it, reduce its first proof to a minimum credible action, record the evidence, and repair the commitment if it has already been broken. Then we will bind word and deed together in a daily practice that leaves less room for self-deception and more room for earned trust. Your promise is now the case before the court. Your next action is the witness. Does this mean every declaration is empty? No. But it does mean declarations belong to two fundamentally different kinds, and they may sound exactly alike. Language itself is not guilty. Its function determines its value. One declaration is a command. The other is a costume. A command narrows the next choice. It names conduct. It brings the first step so near that you can no longer pretend not to see it. When you say, I will address this conflict, and your words appoint a time to make the necessary call, the declaration has begun organizing behavior. It has converted intention into duty. A costume does something entirely different. It gives you the emotional appearance of change while leaving your next choice untouched. You sound resolved. You feel elevated. Others may applaud. Yet nothing has been appointed. Nothing has been risked. Nothing has been moved. The language resembles commitment, but its real service is comfort. Do not judge the two by volume. Do not judge them by passion, repetition, or public enthusiasm. A sentence can be delivered with force every morning and still require nothing by noon. It can be repeated until it feels familiar and remain behaviorally empty. Certainty in the voice is not authority in the life. Here is your first instrument of discernment, the next action test. Immediately after speaking your declaration, ask, what observable act has now become necessary? Not what emotion should arise, not what identity you hope to feel. What act? Something definite, something relevant, something within your control. If the answer remains vague, work harder, become better, take things seriously, then the declaration has not yet issued a command. It may be wearing the costume of decision. But a quiet sentence can carry enormous weight. Before this day ends, I will request the information I have been avoiding. No thunder, no performance, yet the next move is unmistakable. The words have closed one avenue of escape and opened one path of action. There is clear interest in this kind of declaration-centered message. One concept connecting repeated words with identity and behavior received 10,128 views. That is a market signal. People are drawn to the possibility that language can help shape conduct. It does not prove that repetition causes change. Interest is not evidence of transformation, and repetition without appointment may only rehearse the costume more fluently. Now return to the promise you carried from the opening. Apply the test without mercy and without contempt. After you spoke it, could you identify the observable act that became necessary? Did the declaration reduce your options, direct your hands, alter your schedule, or confront your avoidance? Or did it leave everything exactly where it was while giving you temporary possession of a better self-image? Name it accurately: command or costume. If it was a costume, keep it. Do not discard the case or cover it with a stronger speech. We will rewrite it until it can govern conduct. But first, ask a deeper question. Who taught you to use language this way? What repeated script persuaded you that announcing change could stand in for beginning it? Perhaps no single person taught you. Perhaps the lesson arrived through repetition. I must feel ready before I begin. Monday will be different. Because I intend to do it, I have already become the kind of person who does. Each sentence can sound reasonable. Each can protect delay. Repeated often enough, an excuse begins to impersonate an identity. But call it what it is, an inherited alibi. Not a scientific diagnosis, not a permanent trait, not a sentence written into your nature. It is a learned interpretation placed upon repeated behavior. You delayed, explained the delay, repeated the explanation, and eventually mistook the explanation for yourself. Now be careful. Reversibility does not mean innocence. You are still accountable for every occasion when you permitted intention to replace execution. You must own the pattern. You must face its cost. But accountability says, I did this, and I must answer it. Condemnation says, this is what I am, and therefore nothing different can be required of me. One awakens responsibility. The other gives failure a permanent address. Do not say, I am an inconsistent person. Say the more exact thing. I have repeatedly allowed speech and action to separate. That verdict is harder because it removes the shelter of identity. Yet it is also more hopeful because what has repeatedly separated can be deliberately reunited. A pattern has history, but it has no sacred right to your next decision. Let the old explanation speak. Then denied authority. There is visible resonance with this framing. A message titled Destroy Old Beliefs received 18,389 views while presenting inherited conditioning as an identity barrier that could be replaced. That response shows attraction to the idea. It does not establish a universal mechanism, and it does not prove that every struggle comes from conditioning. Use the evidence narrowly. People recognize the possibility that an old interpretation need not remain a final identity. Now return to your unfinished promise. What excused the missing first action? Were you waiting to feel prepared? Did you assign courage to another day? Did you count planning, announcing, or intending as though the duty had already been discharged? Name the particular alibi. Not all alibis, yours. Then say aloud, this explanation may describe what I have repeated. It does not command what I do next. That is not absolution. It is repossession. The inherited script loses authority when the next relevant decision refuses to obey it. But if the script is exposed, reversible, and costly, why do you still protect it? Because an unsupported declaration may pay you immediately. It can provide the feeling of progress before progress has earned its reward. And that sweetness is the next disguise we must confront. Follow the alibi one step deeper. What keeps it alive after you have named it? What makes delay attractive even when you understand its cost? Relief. First comes discomfort. The unfinished work presses against you. The avoided duty disturbs you. The contradiction becomes difficult to ignore. Then you make a declaration. This time I will be disciplined. This time I will take control. the pressure falls. For a moment, the imagined future feels present. Because you have spoken as the improved person, you borrow that person's satisfaction before performing that person's duty. Then relief permits delay. Delay restores discomfort, and discomfort sends you searching for another declaration, another surge of conviction, another dose of motivation. Test that loop against your experience. Discomfort, declaration, relief, delay, renewed hunger for motivation. Have you been trying to strengthen commitment or repeatedly purchasing relief with words? Understand this. Imagining movement is not movement. Feeling identified with a person who acts is not the same as acting. The material task remains untouched, even while the mind enjoys a rehearsal of completion. Language has become a hiding place. Consider the aspiring writer who announces a new life of discipline. The declaration feels decisive. Then comes another talk about consistency, another lesson on craft, another arrangement of notebooks, applications, and tools. Everything surrounding the work receives attention. The first paragraph does not. The advice may be useful. The tools may be necessary. But when consumption repeatedly supplies conviction without producing a relevant act, motivation has become sedation. Preparation has joined the costume. The same mechanism appears in smaller rooms. Someone declares financial order, gathers systems, compares methods, perhaps creates the perfect place to begin, and still avoids recording the first expense. The elaborate preparation does not prove seriousness. The avoided entry reveals what the preparation was protecting. Do not confuse this exposure with contempt. One missed action is limited. It can be acknowledged and corrected. The deeper danger lies in repetition. Each time you speak with certainty and then require nothing of yourself, your private behavior learns that your words predict nothing. You say this time, and some quieter part of your conduct has been trained to expect the familiar retreat. What has your behavior learned to expect after those words? Do not answer with a louder promise. Volume cannot supply evidence. Passion cannot perform the missing act. A grander declaration may produce a grander relief and therefore a more comfortable delay. Enough. The loop must be broken where speech meets conduct. Every serious declaration must be joined to immediate proof, not impressive proof, not complete proof. Its first witness. What qualifies as that witness will require precision. But the law begins here. Your words may no longer collect the reward while your actions escape the duty. Then let the law be stated without ornament. No serious declaration is complete until a relevant action signs it. Your voice may announce the decision. Your emotion may confirm that you desire it. But conduct must place its mark upon the words. Do not ask your actions to applaud what you have said. Command your words to appoint what you will do. And understand the word immediate. It does not mean that you must complete an entire ambition in one heroic burst. It means you begin the first relevant movement that is within your control. At once. You do not finish the whole journey now. You refuse to leave the starting point untouched. Immediacy is not frenzy. It is the end of negotiation with the first move. Use this sequence. Speak the commitment precisely. Name the act that will confirm it. Begin that act now. Then record whether you completed what you named. Speak, name, begin, record. If any part is missing, the declaration remains exposed. If you speak but cannot name the act, you have produced atmosphere. If you name it but refuse to begin, you have preserved escape. If you begin but never record the result, you leave yourself free to revise the memory. The sequence gives your promise a duty and gives the duty an answer. I am becoming disciplined is not yet precise enough. Disciplined in what conduct? At what duty? Beginning when? Replace the mist with a command. I will open the unfinished draft now and begin the paragraph I have avoided. The identity is no longer floating above your life. It has been attached to something visible. Be severe about relevance. Buying supplies is not proof when the work does not require more supplies. Announcing the plan is not proof when the central act remains untouched. Redesigning the system is not proof when the system already permits you to begin. These activities may surround commitment, but surrounding the duty is not performing it. The writer does not confirm discipline by arranging the desk once more. The writer confirms it by facing the page and drafting the first honest paragraph. The proof may be quiet. No one may witness it. That does not weaken it. The question is not whether the action looks impressive. The question is whether it directly answers the declaration. Now bring back the promise you selected. Do not substitute a cleaner one. Rewrite it in this form. I commit to, and the action that will sign this commitment is, I will begin it now. Say the sentence aloud. Fill both blanks with exact language. Let the inherited alibi object. Let discomfort rise. Then move your hand, open the document, place the call, send the request, or begin whatever relevant act your own promise requires. Your chosen identity does not need another ceremony. It needs a witness. Perhaps you now object that the first action feels too large. Good. Do not use its size as permission to retreat. Reduce the step, but do not sever it from the duty. The next question is precise. What is the smallest proof that still tells the truth? The answer is not to demand less truth from yourself. It is to demand less size from the first act. A minimum credible action has 4 marks. It belongs directly to the promise. It remains within your control. It can be started now. And when it is finished, no argument is needed to decide whether it was done. Relevant, controllable, immediate, verifiable. Remove any one of these, and the action becomes vulnerable to disguise. Do not make the first proof heroic. That temptation may sound ambitious, but examine what it permits. If the opening act requires perfect energy, uninterrupted hours, unusual courage, or favorable circumstances, delay begins to look reasonable. You have designed a step so large that avoidance can wear the face of prudence. But do not flee to the opposite deception. A tiny symbol is not necessarily a truthful step. Naming a folder, sharpening a tool, or telling someone what you intend may be easy to complete, yet still fail to touch the promised work. Smallness is not the standard. Honest relevance is, if the promise concerns a book, the first proof need not be the book. It may be one written paragraph. If the promise concerns a different career, the first proof need not be a complete reinvention. It may be one submitted application. If the promise concerns financial order, the first proof need not be a perfected system. It may be the first expense entered accurately. These are illustrations, not universal formulas. They prove nothing about what every person must do. Your circumstances determine the form. The law determines the quality. The action must make real contact with the duty you named. First, establish obedience to your word. Then, increase the size of the act as your capacity and circumstances permit. First, alignment, then expansion. First, one honest confirmation, then another. You are not lowering the standard of commitment. You are removing the exaggerated scale that allowed commitment to remain theoretical. Now take the promise you have carried through this examination. Write it once. Beneath it write, the minimum credible action is. Fill the blank with an act that passes all 4 tests. Does it serve the promise? Can you control it? Can you begin it now? Will completion be unmistakable? If not, revise it. If it is too large, reduce it. If it merely circles the work, move it inward until it touches the work. Do not wait for confidence to approve the choice. Begin the selected action before you seek another wave of inspiration. One promise has now been brought within reach of proof, but one confirming act, though decisive, is not yet a durable pattern. What happens when today's proof must answer tomorrow's word, and the next day's after that? The single act must become a visible chain one your memory cannot flatter and your excuses cannot erase. Then make the chain visible. Do not leave it to mood. Do not trust excitement to remember accurately what ordinary days will attempt to explain away. Build a credibility ledger. At the opening, your words were losing authority because conduct repeatedly contradicted them. Authority returns by the opposite process. One agreement kept, then another, then another. No dramatic announcement is required. Accumulated confirmation speaks quietly, but it speaks with weight. Keep the ledger simple. Record three things: the declaration you made, the action appointed to confirm it, and the honest result. Nothing ornamental, nothing designed for display. This is not a journal of intentions. It is a record of agreements. Each completed proof is a deposit. It strengthens the account between what you say and what you do. Each contradiction is a withdrawal. But understand this: the withdrawal becomes more dangerous when you conceal it, rename it, or pretend it never occurred. An honest record can contain failure. A dishonest record cannot produce trust. The ledger does not measure your worth. It does not decide whether you possess talent, dignity, potential, or the right to begin again. It answers a narrower question: was this particular agreement kept? Use exact language: done, not done, revised before the deadline. Done means the named action was completed. Not done means it was not. Revised before the deadline means circumstances required an adjustment, and you made that adjustment honestly, while there was still time to govern your behavior, not afterward when explanation became convenient. Do not write almost. Do not write basically. Do not decorate a missed action with a paragraph about your good intentions. Explanations may help you design a better agreement later, but they must not alter the result. Precision protects the record. Now the question changes. You no longer ask, do I feel like a disciplined person today? Feeling may rise with praise and fall with fatigue. Ask instead, what does today's record show? The ledger cannot reveal your entire identity, nor should it. But rhetorically, it gives identity language somewhere solid to stand. When you say, I am becoming a person whose word carries weight, you need not depend upon the mood of the hour. You can remember conduct. You can point to agreements made and honored. Self-trust needs fewer speeches when it has a record. Make one entry for the promise already before you. Write the declaration. Write the minimum credible action. Record the result without disguise. Then repeat the practice with the next agreement. Let the deposits accumulate without demanding applause. But do not worship an unbroken page. An honest ledger will eventually contain a blank, a contradiction, a withdrawal. The crucial question is not whether imperfection arrives. It will. The question is what you do when your word and deed separate again. Leave the failed entry visible. How does authority recover after that? Authority recovers through repair. Perfection is not the standard. Integrity does not require that every agreement survive fatigue, misjudgment, interruption, or changing circumstances. It requires that contradiction be faced promptly and answered truthfully. You may fail to keep an agreement without surrendering the authority of every agreement that follows, but you cannot restore that authority by hiding what happened. Do not answer a missed action with a larger promise. That is the old refuge in a more emotional form. You fail to act for 30 minutes, then vow to act for 3 hours tomorrow. You miss one duty, then announce a complete transformation. The intensity feels like repentance, but unless conduct follows, you have merely placed fresh language over unfinished evidence. Repair first, renew second. Use this sequence. Name the contradiction plainly. Identify what made the agreement unrealistic or easy to avoid. Choose a smaller action that still touches the promised work. Complete it at the next feasible opportunity. Then revise the wording of future commitments so they can govern actual behavior. Truth, diagnosis, proof, revision. Suppose the writer planned a full session and did not appear for it. The ledger must say, not done, no disguise. Next, the writer examines the agreement. Perhaps the time was poorly chosen. Perhaps the duration was inflated. Perhaps the task remained vague enough to permit escape. These facts can improve the next commitment, but they cannot transform the missed session into a completed one. That is the distinction between an excuse and useful information. An excuse attempts to falsify the past. Useful information disciplines the future. Circumstances may justify changing what you promise next. They do not justify changing the record of what occurred. So the writer returns at the next genuine opening, faces the unfinished page, and writes one relevant paragraph. That paragraph does not erase the miss. It corrects the separation by restoring contact between language and conduct. Then the next agreement becomes realistic and exact, a specified paragraph, at a specified time, under conditions the writer can reasonably command. This is repair without theater. Do not attack yourself. Self-condemnation performs pain while leaving the duty untouched. Do not absolve yourself carelessly. Easy forgiveness performs mercy while leaving the contradiction untouched. Neither accusation nor indulgence supplies proof. Act. Return to the ledger. Keep the original failure visible. Beneath it, record the repair, what was learned, what corrective act was completed, and how the next commitment was rewritten. The withdrawal remains part of the truth. The repair becomes part of the truth also. Say aloud, I do not defend the contradiction. I correct it. Now, proof and repair are both defined. The next step is to join declaration, action, review, and correction into one daily law given in the morning, tested in conduct, and judged honestly at night. Now, install that law as a daily pact, not 10 commitments, not a chorus of ambitions competing for attention. Choose one governing commitment at a time. Intensity scattered across many promises produces excitement without direction. Concentration gives the day a clear demand. In the morning, before new declarations begin multiplying, read the aim you have chosen. Then speak one identity statement that can be tested by conduct. I am becoming a person whose word can be seen in this action. Fill the blank with today's confirming act. Write it in the ledger. Then begin the first controllable move. Read, speak, write, move. Stand if you are able. Speak clearly enough to hear the agreement you are making. Turn physically toward the place where the duty will be performed. This posture is participation, not magic. Standing does not transform identity. Volume does not create integrity. Movement matters because the pact must leave the mouth and enter the day. Do not promise an entire future before breakfast. Give one word, one duty. If the chosen aim is broad, appoint only the minimum credible action that belongs to today, relevant to the promise, within your control, possible to begin, and unmistakable when completed. The aim may remain large. The daily proof must remain governable. Then defend the pact during the day. Another surge of motivation may tempt you to announce a second transformation, redesign the plan, or seek a more inspiring sentence. Stop. Apply the next action test. What observable act does this new declaration require, and does it serve the governing commitment or distract me from it? If it distracts, refuse the performance. Return to the appointed action. You do not need another emotional beginning. You need continuation. In the evening, open the ledger and give the day its honest judgment. Record the result plainly. Completed, missed, or honestly revised before the appointed time. If conduct confirmed the word, acknowledge the proof without exaggeration. If conduct contradicted it, acknowledge the contradiction without concealment. Diagnose what weakened the agreement, complete the smallest relevant correction at the next feasible opening, and rewrite the next commitment with greater precision. Morning assigns, conduct answers, evening records, failure repairs. Then the cycle begins again. Repeat this pact daily, not because repeated speech guarantees transformation, but because consistent enforcement teaches your words that they must answer to evidence. The declaration returns each morning because the duty returns. The review returns each evening because memory must not be allowed to edit the record. Choose now the unfinished promise you carried into this address. Rewrite it specifically. Name its minimum credible action. Stand. Speak the agreement. Begin that action before you consume another message about motivation. Let the promise remain active as we enter the final movement. For when words stop asking for applause and conduct repeatedly stands beside them, what kind of person begins to emerge? What kind of person emerges? Not a person who never fails. Not a person who speaks with greater force. A person whose private conduct has begun to make exaggeration unnecessary. At the opening, you faced a divided authority. Declaration moving in one direction, behavior moving in another. You name futures your habits had not been ordered to serve. Now the arrangement is reversed. Your promises become fewer because you no longer use them for comfort. They become clearer because each must identify its duty. They become believable because evidence follows them. This is the difference between a command and a costume. A costume displays the person you hope to resemble. A command assigns work to the person standing here. One seeks a sensation of change. The other requires a changed next move. And the inherited alibi. It may return. It may repeat every reason you once delayed, but it loses jurisdiction each time you choose the action it predicted you would avoid. You do not defeat an old pattern by arguing with it forever. You deprive it of authority through a contrary decision. Nor may inspiration reward you in advance. Let emotion rise, but do not let it collect the wages of unfinished labor. The reward must follow contact with a duty. Desire may announce the direction. Behavior must cross the distance. Your ledger will not be flawless. Let that demand die. A flawless record would teach you nothing about repair. An honest record teaches you that a missed agreement can be named, examined, corrected, and rewritten without spectacle. Self-trust is not confidence that you will never break your word. It is confidence that you will neither conceal the break nor leave it unanswered. Now speak these verdicts aloud. Say only what you will serve. Begin what you have said. Repair what you failed to complete. Again, with less emotion and more decision, I will not advertise what I refuse to serve. I will begin what I declare. I will correct every contradiction I create. Now return to the promise chosen at the beginning, the real one, the unfinished one, the one your old explanation tried to protect. You have diagnosed it. You have made it precise. You have named the minimum credible action, relevant, controllable, ready to begin, and clear enough to judge. Perform it now. Not after another declaration. Not after the feeling becomes stronger. Let your hand, your voice, your attention, and your time enter the appointed duty. No announcement is required. No witness is required. Your future no longer needs to be advertised. It has begun to appear in what you do.